want to begin my sermon with ultimate meaning, and that is to start at death, but I don't hope to end there. I hope to actually end in love and hope. Beloved, it turns out that we are all dying. Turns out that is the ultimate truth, that we will all die, and we wonder what our lives will be like between now and then, or what our lives might be like afterwards. Much theology and Christian work has been about what will happen afterwards, a way, I think, of trying to control everything. We who are 60, or we who are nearing 60, like Ben's going to be, near 60 tomorrow? Yeah. He won't be 60, not yet. Brings into acute focus death, I think. We go through developmental stages where we understand that we all will die. It comes closer and closer. Do you remember when you were 18? We thought we were indestructible. And now that we're 40, 50, 60, we know all of the ways that we could be taken out. Isn't that true? If we're lucky, we will die before our children die. We know that our children will die one day. We hope we'll be long gone, but we hope that, in fact, they will die before your grandchildren die. The Dalai Lama famously thinks about his death every day, meditates on it, because when he does, he's not so afraid of it. He becomes prepared for it. Jesus talks about death as well. He says, both in Matthew and Mark and Luke and John, which means perhaps he actually did say it, that one who tries to save one's life will forfeit it, and only in giving up life will one actually get it, have it, save it. Enigmatic, I think. Truth be told, in fact, we die little deaths every day. Our hopes and expectations die and new ones arise. In our families, new things arise, and things can die within us so that we can arise to what could be new. I remember when Mecca and I were first together and we fought, I thought it would be the end of us. It turns out that it was just the beginning of our relationship, so that what lived between us could become more resilient, more fruitful, more loving, more forgiving. It's true at work as well. We think we're going in to do one job we think we're good at, and it turns out that we're not, or the job is not that. And so we try on to see, can we live with the new understanding of what's happening at work? Can we tolerate it? Can we rise to it? It's true in congregations. We come into congregations and we fall in love with them, love what new thing they're doing, love what new way we understand what is true. We sit in the back of the church and we cry. And then we find out, in fact, that our church is not infallible and doesn't do things perfect. And our hopes are dashed by it. And it's a death. And we have to grieve it. There's a koan that says, now that the barn has burned down, we can see the moon. It's a Buddhist koan, a Buddhist saying. And there's something really true about when the barn burns down, when our expectations burn down, when what we want turns out to be thwarted or not really what we want at all. It is possible that we can see something new and beautiful, but boy, is there a lot of grief that we must suffer. And we can't go without this grief. in between time, things dying and things rising. It is the way of life for things to ebb and flow, for passion to be full throttle and then to wane in love, in church, with God, with one's basketball game. It's just as common as mud, the waxing and the waning. In our church, we have been trying for the death of white supremacy. And it has been a hard go. We have been so enthusiastic about the end of white supremacy, and we have been participating in it as well as we could. We've done it by decentering ourselves, trying to, but it's really hard decentering ourselves, especially us white folks, because we came out of the womb believing that the world was made for us. It's not so for our people of color. At mother's breast, at father's knee, our people of color have learned that the world is not made for them, and it's a pity and also a blessing, because it's easy to decenter oneself, or it can be pathological to decenter oneself. We who have survived homophobia, transphobia, we who have survived getting sober, we who have survived domestic violence, we too know about the process of decentering. We have an inkling about it, but it's a hard go to know what decentering looks like. For myself, I thought either I am centered or my personhood is abdicated, invisibilized, can't exist. For some of us, we find ourselves centered or we get the hell out. We say, the way I want to do it is the right way. And if you don't do it my way, I'm out of here. I'm out of here with my presence. I'm out of here with sharing chores. I'm out of here with trying to make a difference. I'm out of here. It's a hard go for us because we have known no other than being centered, and we want to be centered and seen. We need to be centered and seen. And so how do we practice the act of decentering? How do we find a place to stand where we can sit and listen, behold, learn from outside our own experience how to do that, and also get our own needs met? In our congregation, we have been centering our Black folks. We've been centering white supremacy. We have been centering, making every move that we can so that our folks of color will trust us, will understand that we mean it when we say white supremacy cannot rule us and your life is so important to us. But we've also tried every trick in the book, every knee-jerk response that we can find so to recenter ourselves. It's not our fault, and we're not bad for doing it. But we've been testing how to decenter ourselves. We've said, when you get the history right, then I'll participate. When you say the words right, I'll participate. When you read the right book, I'll participate. Only after you see me completely and entirely, I'll participate. And until then, I'm out of here telling you my needs. I'm out of here pledging. I'm out of here working in teams and communities. We hardly know when we're doing it. My own mistake, I think, in our community has to insist that we talk only about white supremacy and not heard you when you have said, I also need help with my grief. I also need help with my children. I also need help with my finances. I also need help. I and others have thought this work of doing away with white supremacy has been a zero-sum game. My needs or Black folks' needs. It can't be both. So I checked in with some of our Black folks, our brown folks on last Sunday, and said, if I preach to our white people this Sunday, would that be okay? They said, of course. If there's a wound, if there's a need, attend to the people who need our care. I asked our folks last Sunday, Black History Month is coming, and shall we have only our folks of color lead those services? And they said, no. Let's do it all together. Let's do it in community. And then I knew, beloved ones, that we are trusted, or somewhat trusted, or beginning to be trusted by our people of color. I also know that our queer folks trust our straight folks. Do you know that? You straight folks have been such wonderful allies. And never has my existence or our queer folks' existence been questioned or cared for. Our women folks have been cared for by you men folks. You have been so careful to see and know our women, to hear and weigh in about Roe v. Wade, to say that your body's care is necessary. It turns out that trust and care is not a zero-sum game, at least not in our congregation. It is in other places. It is in other congregations. But we have moved to a new round. We have had a little death in our congregation, a little death of wondering whether or not we could be trustworthy or trusting. And it turns out that the new life between us is a baseline of trust upon which God's realm and the care of one another, body and soul, with countercultural community, with equity as our North Star, really could be a reality.
Amen.
We know that we have tried many, many ways to get to this place. And speaking of how we have materially benefited from white supremacy has been one way to do it. And it has been so moving to some of us, and others of us have felt like it was just white guilt speaking its name. And there is room for both. We're always careful then when we project on others, oh, it's only white guilt for them, because it might be white guilt for us. Or maybe our name has not been called yet. Maybe we have not heard ourselves centered in a way that we need. There is another little death that we have had that is so for the good, and I want to tell it to you, is folks who have been mad and dissatisfied have come to me and said, I'm not getting what I need, and you have been wrong, Ruth. And I can't tell you how healthy and good that is. I can't tell you how much I and the leadership circle and the moderators appreciate when we can say, no, I'm not getting what I need. I need more help. I need you. I need our community. We've been talking about hope and joy as if it were actually attainable for us. What I know about hope and joy is that when we move through the little death of a parent, the death of our expectations, the death of the hopes for our children who turn out to be themselves instead of what we thought they would be, it turns out that when we are really willing to acknowledge that death, to come close to it, joy can pop up. It turns out that even when we are afraid and we still step into the work of community, of offering the gift that is ours to give, God gives us consolation. It turns out that sometimes, not every time, but sometimes when we reach the place of despair, God reaches into our hearts, our bodies, our souls through the work of soup or masks or tests or a feeling of being fulfilled or the nearness of God, that new life and consolation comes to us. Life and consolation that we know as joy or hope. I can tell you 5 times in my life when this has been true. I would tell you one not to brag, but just to say, do you remember? Never mind. When we allow ourselves to feel, to know, to really see one another, consolation and joy will come. So our people of color have said that we're trustworthy. Now let's be trustworthy. Our queer people have said we are trustworthy. Let's be trustworthy. Our women have said we are trustworthy. Let's be that. Our men want to be trusted. Let's trust them. Because the glory of God awaits us. And I don't want to miss out in this life. I don't want to miss this chance with you. We go deeper and deeper. We go wider and wider. We go higher and higher. Clothed in the realm of God's love. Come with me, my beloved ones.